Mhm. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the StepSaidIt podcast. I am Stephen B., your podcast host, resident expert, all things StepSaidIt. Thank you all so much for joining me on tonight. We have a very interesting show that we will be putting on for you. For those of you who are listening, just let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear my background music, because I think I was having some technical difficulties. It would not surprise me that tonight's show would be the show that I have some difficulties on. So, y'all, please just let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear my applause and my background music. Let me know what it sounds like. All right. So you hear me talking, but you cannot hear background music. All right. So stand by for me one moment. Let me see if I can get this worked out. You know what? We're going to just let it ride the way it is. We're going to let it go like this. As long as y'all can hear me, we just won't have sound effects and oohs and ahs tonight, which is probably a good thing considering the subject matter that we're going to be addressing on tonight. So let me do this the way I like to do it. For those of you who are watching me live, good evening. Again, thank you for joining me. For those of you watching me on the playback, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you decided to log into the show. This is the StepSaidIt podcast. I am the host, the resident expert, Stephen B., and I am here every Monday night at 8 o'clock. So it's Election Day Eve. And tomorrow, we as a nation get to make history. Um, it's an exciting time, but it is also a time that we need not let up off the gas, and we need to be mindful. And for those of us who are true believers, we need to be praying. Um, I am going to I'm going to unpack some things. The views expressed are explicitly those of the Steps Edit podcast, meaning everything that I'm talking about tonight, this is how I feel. Now, as you can see behind me on my background, I've got blue on one side, I've got red on the other side, because that represents the two major parties. We've got the Democrats and the Republicans. We know on the ticket for tomorrow, we will be voting for president and vice president for our national election. And then we also have a few local elections that will be going on. I actually um, have a sample ballot for the state of Mississippi. Uh, And so I do want to share that information because on the podcast, we want to not just be entertaining, but we also want to be informative. And so here we go on the ballot for tomorrow's election. And just bear with me here one moment. I'm going to share my screen. Because I want you all to be able to see what I see. And do share screen. Stand by. Give me just a moment. I'm going to get it pulled up here. And here we are. I thought. Hold on. Stand by. I know I am coming across very unprepared tonight, and I do apologize for that. But I want you all to have all of this information so we can be informed when we go to the polls on tomorrow. This is a very important election, and I have some views. I have some things that I want to share just about my own personal thoughts and feelings about what we're up against. And this is crazy because I'm an IT guy. I don't have these type of issues. However, the screen that I am trying to show you, it will not let me share it. But that's all right, because we're not gonna be defeated tonight. We're gonna get this done. And I promise you, this show is going to be much more interesting once I get going. There it is. And here we go. So let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger to make it easier for us to see it. Here we go. And so on tomorrow, for tomorrow's election, we have our ballot for the president. We have the ballot for the president. I won't go down and read all of the names, but we do have our presidential election. We also have here in the state of Mississippi, we're voting for U.S. Senate, House of Representatives District 1, House of Representatives District 2, House of Representatives District 3, House District 4, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, so forth and so on. And so I kind of want to take some liberties here just to talk about the importance of what this election means for us. Now, I am not in any shape, form, or fashion endorsing any one party. I can tell you how I plan to vote, but I also plan to tell you why I am going to vote the way I plan to vote. So, I know this is a very small platform. I don't have a whole lot of people who tune in on a regular basis, but we are we're gonna make this work. This is my position. This is my position about the election. Um, I am voting tomorrow for Kamala Harris. The reason why I am voting for Kamala Harris, and here we go. This is as I've said the last couple of episodes. This is my unpopular opinion. I am voting for Kamala Harris not because I think she is the best person for the job. If my board was working right, I would do my sound effects. I'm not voting for her because I feel like she's the best person for the job. I am voting for her because I think Donald Trump is worse. And so I know there are other options on the ballot. I know there are other names that I can vote for. I don't know anything about them. Their platforms have not been their platforms have not been as widely broadcast as the two major parties. And so we have the Democrats and we have the Republicans. I had a conversation with my brother a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the election and we were talking about the importance of the election. And let me just segue right here. I am encouraging everyone to go out and vote. Exercise your right to vote. Okay. I don't want anything that I say in this podcast tonight to discourage anyone from voting. I'm encouraging everyone, please get out and vote. I saw a shirt today that said either go vote or STFU. For those of you who don't know what STFU stands for, I'm going to allow you to look it up. I'm not going to say it because it has some colorful words. But the thing is, you have the right to vote. If you choose not to exercise your right to vote, then you are also relinquishing your right to complain about what did or did not happen or what will or will not happen because you did not exercise your right to vote. Okay. Now, with that being said, as I previously stated, I don't think she is the best candidate, but I know, or I'm almost certain that he would be worse for the nation. And so I'm really not voting for Vice President Harris. I'm voting against Donald Trump. I had a conversation with my brother, and this is gonna be a real short podcast tonight, y'all, because I don't know how engaging it's gonna be. Um, this the StepSaidIt podcast, and so I said what I said. Again, had a conversation with my brother, and we were talking about the election. We were talking about the importance of it, and we kind of brought up the whole conversation about our ancestors and our foreparents. They sacrificed their lives and they risked their lives for us to have the right to vote, and that is absolutely true. They did all of that so that we would have the right, so that we could exercise the right, or see, we could have the right to vote. This is where I find um, a struggle because I don't like being in a space where I'm not confident in the candidates that I have to vote for. I don't like being in a space where I'm choosing the lesser of two evils. There's a phrase that I've heard tossed around, not in this election, but just in life conversation. It's like you got to choose the witch or the devil. And no, I am not calling Kamala Harris a witch. Now I'll let y'all fill in the blanks. But I don't like being in a space where I'm not confident in the the candidates that we have. One movie that I thoroughly enjoy watching, the movie is called Brewster's Millions. Now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Brewster's Millions, but I will give you a very high level rundown. In Brewster's Millions, there's a guy, he's pretty much a bum. His grandfather or his great grandfather dies, and he leaves him. He's the only living heir, and so he leaves him an inheritance in his will. But there are stipulations in the inheritance. What he has to do is he leaves him $3 million, and he has to spend $3 million in 90 days. And at the end of that 90 days, he can have nothing to show for it except the shirt that he had on his back at the time. If he completed the challenge, then he would win um, the ultimate inheritance, which is $30 million. So you got to spend $3 million so that you can inherit $30 million. Part of that process, he could not own any possessions. He could not have any additional income. He couldn't just give it all away. There were several stipulations in the movie. Now, I didn't want to go into a whole lot of the. I didn't want to go a whole lot into the movie, but there's a specific part of the movie that I wanted to cover. Part of his challenge, part of the way he got rid of the money, is Montgomery Brewster, who was the main character, is played by Richard Pryor. Again, great movie. You should totally go watch it. But one of the things that he did, he decided to run for he decided to run for uh, mayor of Hackensack, New Jersey. But the platform that he stood on was none of the above. He was saying, I don't want you to vote for me, but the candidates that we have are not worthy of your vote. So vote none of the above. And that was the platform he stood on. The platform he stood on was none of the above. Vote none of the above. Well, I've seen the movie. The movie is it's a fairly old movie. I've seen the movie several times, but that phrase always stuck with me, and I always think about it around election times, specifically larger elections like this one. But even for your smaller elections, or the local municipalities, I'll say it that way. Even during those elections, I feel like on every ballot there should be an option for none of the above. If a candidate is running unopposed, then whether I vote for them or not, that candidate is going to win because they are running unopposed. I feel like there should be an option for none of the above. That way, if this candidate is running unopposed, but I don't think this candidate is the best person for the job, this candidate is now running against himself. And so instead of me voting for him, or if I don't vote, he's gonna win by default. And so I personally feel like there should be an option for none of the above. This is what it eliminates. This is the one thing that I am just completely done with when it comes to the whole election cycle. What I'm done with is candidates standing on the platform of what the other person is not doing or what the other person did not do. I understand. We understand what that person did not do, has not done, is not doing. I get it. What I'm tired of is looking at campaigns and listening to ads that only highlight what the other person is not doing. You're not telling me what you're going to do. You're not sharing with me what you're going to do. The bulk of the conversation is about what this person is not doing. At the when I look back at the debate between um, Trump and Harris, very little in that debate was highlighting what I will do when I'm elected. Did they say some things? Yes. Now, is it my responsibility as a voter to go and do my research and to look them up to see what they're going to do? Absolutely, that is my job as a constituent. That is my job as a voter to do my research, to do my due diligence, to make sure that I am aware of their platforms and I'm abreast of everything that they plan to do and the things that they have set in place or they're going to set in place. Yes, that is my job to be informed about the person that I'm voting for. However, when you have the space of um, the internet and the space of social media and the space of print media and the space of the news media, why is all of that time focused on negative campaigning? Why is that time? And I'm not just going to say that time, why is my time being um, used telling me about what this candidate is not doing or what this candidate is not doing? Tell me what you're going to do. So the reason why I feel like we ought to have a none of the above option on the ballot is because on every election, I'm pretty sure in every election, Donald Duck has gotten several votes. And the reason why I know Donald Duck has gotten several votes is because there have been several elections that I have voted for Donald Duck because I did not like either of the candidates. One candidate in particular, and I'm not going to call any names because I'm just not trying to do that. But one candidate in particular, every time this particular candidate runs for office, I always put because this particular person 90% of the time runs unopposed. And so what I tend to do is I will put Donald Duck under this particular person's name. where because on every ballot, and I can show you even on the sample ballot that we have, you have a space to write in a vote. So Jimmy Maxwell is running for nonpartisan. This is the Supreme Court justice. He's running unopposed. But if I don't like the platform that Maxwell has, or if I don't like, what he stands for, then I can write in Donald Duck. This is the problem. If 1,000 people vote, if 450 people vote for John Maxwell, I'm sorry, Jimmy Maxwell. John Maxwell is an author. If 450 people vote for Jimmy Maxwell, and then 550 people vote for random people, for 550 random people, then that's 550 people who said we don't want Jimmy Maxwell. But because he got the majority of the votes, he wins. So what happens if we do a none of the above? I don't have to say, using the same scenario, if you got 1,000 people who can vote, 1,000 people who vote, 450 of them vote for Jimmy Maxwell. And side note, I am not picking on Jimmy Maxwell. I just happen to remember his name. I don't know him. He may be an amazing guy. Hey, to the best, the best of you, the best to you. But if we don't, if 450 people vote for him and then 550 people vote none of the above, then guess what? He lost. That forces candidates to run against themselves. I'm not running against another candidate. I am my biggest opponent, because now I have the responsibility of not throwing mud on my opponent, but I have the responsibility of making myself shine, which means I have to have a plan. Now, am I saying that Vice President Harris doesn't have a plan? No, I am not saying that. Am I saying that Donald Trump does not have a plan? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the bulk of their campaigning and the bulk of the ads that I've seen have been them throwing mud at each other. So to me as a voter, it makes both of them look bad in my eyes, because this person is saying this about this person. This person is saying this about that person. As far as I'm concerned, neither one of them earned my vote. Neither one of them deserve my vote. Now, one of them will get my vote because we don't have a none of the above option. So that's where I am. But now I need to turn another corner. I need to turn another corner because this is something that has become a hot topic on as of recent. There has been this huge controversial message, and there have been so many people who have responded and commented back to it, and they've said what they wanted to say about it. But Pastor Donnie Swaggart got up in his church and he said that we need to rebuke, or the black church needs to be rebuked. Now, in his message, and I started to pull it up, but I just don't want to give that particular message any more views. We just not. I'm not going to use my platform for that. I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to pull it up. But he said the black church needs to be rebuked because when the leader of the largest African American, long story short, he was talking about Bishop Sheard and the Church of God in Christ. So Bishop Sheard came out and he endorsed Vice President Harris. And so now Donnie Swaggart is saying that because he came out to endorse Vice President Harris, then the black church is endorsing murder, homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism. These are all the things that he said. And he said that the majority of black churches or the majority of African Americans support the they support the party that is the most against the Bible or the most against God. I I take that bothers me. That bothers me for numerous reasons. Number one, if we're trying to be a nation that is not divided, because and I've been saying this for a while now, we really need to either stop saying the Pledge of Allegiance or rewrite the Pledge of Allegiance. And I know I'm coming across very unpatriotic right now. I hope that, you know, if anybody, I'm not a threat to the nation. I mean no harm to anyone. I have no desire to start a mutiny. I'm just a guy with a podcast with an opinion, and I use this platform to express my opinion. So this is not an act of treason. I am not out to overthrow government and the nation. Say la. But we really need to consider rewriting, or we need to reconsider the phrase one nation under God, indivisible. Because if we are nothing else right now in our nation, if we are nothing else, we are divided. And we're so divided in so many different areas where it's not just we're divided black against white. We are divided black against white. We're divided men against women. We're divided older generation versus younger generation. We're divided the Christians versus the non-Christians. And Lord, please don't get me started with the churches that are divided, because you got so many denominations that are against other denominations because one thinks one way and another one thinks the other way, but we all read the same Bible and we all serve the same God. There's one Lord, one faith, one baptism. We all believe in God, but we are so divided. And so we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Like I could pick that apart because there are so many untruths in the pledge. And so now you have this pastor who he identified the black church. But if we're going to talk about the God of the Bible, the God of the Bible says there is no Jew nor Greek, there, no bound nor free. So when we're all standing under God, he doesn't see black or white people in church. So for you to come on and say that this is an indictment against the quote unquote black church for supporting that woman, as he said, my question is, what's your issue with that woman? What's and you're trying to say that Vice President Harris is not quote unquote of God, and so you're endorsing Donald Trump. Show me his religious walk, his spiritual walk. Show me where, you know, this it's frustrating. And now, as if we were not already divided, now we are more divided even in the church because of statements like this. And so now everybody, all of the powerhouses in the black church, quote unquote, find it necessary to come and defend the black church. Well, the reality is you ain't supposed to really be talking about politics in the church anyway, are you? Separation of church and state. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not supposed to be endorsing or not endorsing one party or the other. Now, what we did at our church on Sunday was we encouraged everybody to go out and vote, but we did not identify or indicate who to vote for. We just encouraging people to go out and vote. And on the StepSaidIt podcast, I use my platform to encourage you. Go out and vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I told you who I'm voting for, and I told you why. But more than anything, we need to find a way. Let me settle down. I'm getting a little too passionate here. More than anything, we need to find a way to be united as a nation, because at the end of the day, we need each other. Black people need white people. White people need black people. Men need women. Women need men. Older generation needs the younger generation. Younger generation needs the older generation. The church needs the people not in the church. The people not in the church need the church. And we all need Jesus. And the reality is, I am tired of hearing about and talking about this election. I understand that it is important. And I'm going to get up early in the morning and I'm going to the polls to vote. And I may not be first in line, but I will be early. And my vote will be counted. But we've got to do more than vote. And we cannot rely on a president or a vice president or a governor or a mayor or a city council person or an alderman or a senator or a representative. We can't put I can't hang my hat on them. When it comes to taking care of what needs to be taken care of in my house, I trust God and I go to work. And if groceries are at the point where I can't, quote unquote, afford to pay them, I trust God. And the Bible says, my God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory, not the president. When things seem like they're just way out of whack, my God says in the Bible, I once was young, but now I'm old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. That's not from the president. That did not come from the Oval Office. That came from the throne. And so at the end of the day, after tomorrow, we will have a new president elect. But I said this in church yesterday. I'm not worried about who's in the office because I know who's sitting on the throne. And that's where I put my faith. And that's where I put my trust. And that is where my confidence lies. So yes, I do go and I do vote. And I live this life just like we all live this life, and I walk this earth just like we all walk this earth. And I got work to do just like we all got work to do. But I will not live in fear. I will not be depressed. I will not have anxieties. I will not be cast down. I will not be destroyed because I serve a big God. And my God is bigger than a Democratic Party, a Republican Party, a Tea Party, a House Party, a Independent Party, a Dependent Party. You can take all these parties and put them together. And my God is bigger than all of those. And that is the StepSaidIt podcast. So thank you all so much. Before I sign off, I really wish you had made that comment on my StepSaidIt page, because I would have loved to put that comment on the screen. I have a coworker. She said, "You can always move to Canada. God is there too, eh?" That is what she said. Before we sign off tonight, and this information literally just came across my screen right before I went on the air, so I didn't have a chance to properly prepare anything. But we lost a giant in the music industry on today. And we have lost some major ones. But today, on the StepSaidIt podcast, we say, rest in peace, Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones has transitioned to that great piano music studio in the sky, or wherever he is. But we all know Quincy Jones was, when now we talk about the music GOAT, he was the greatest of all time. And so, again, on behalf of myself and the entire crew of the StepSaidIt podcast, which is also myself, we say rest in peace and rest in power, Mr. Quincy Jones. So thank you all again for joining me on tonight. Normally I would be playing my background music, but again, I'm having some technical difficulties on tonight. And so we will just sign off in silence. I guess I could sing or something like that, but no, we're not in a singing mood tonight. So thank you all for tuning in with me on tonight. Please stay tuned. We are still updating our website. We have transitioned everything to StepSaidIt Entertainment. And part of that entertainment is everything from podcasts to event hosts to sound and media production to all things entertainment. If you need an event host, you can hit me up. Drop me an email, stepsaidit@gmail.com. You can find me on all social media platforms. I am StepSaidIt across the board. StepSaidIt on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter. I think I'm missing one. But wherever you look for StepSaidIt, that's where I will be. Again, we are updating the website. We are still StepSaidIt, www.stepsaidit.com. And for those of you who have been my consistent supporters, thank you so much for your support. For those of you who jump in and out and, all of that, hey, I appreciate you too. For those of you who give me those encouraging words, thank you. And for those of you who come in to see if I'm going to fail, thank you. I appreciate the haters as well. So once again, this has been the StepSaidIt podcast. I am the host, Stephen B. And if anybody asks you where you get your information from, you know what to tell them. StepSaidIt. We'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good night. Go vote. The polls open at 7.